Hello, dear students. Welcome to yet another class of business studies. Today, we will discuss the last chapter, consumer protection. You can expect a weightage of 8 to 9 marks, average you can expect from this chapter. So, we will see in detail why this chapter has been enacted by uh, business studies, why we need such a chapter for the commerce students. Okay, so basically, we can say that nowadays the competition in the market is intense. A lot of competition is there happening between different businessmen. All the businessmen wants to sell their product more and they want to earn more profit. So for that purpose, they are doing a lot of trade practices which are even unfair also. They're also exploiting the consumers in different manner. So we used to say the term consumer and customer. We may think that both are the same, but actually there is a difference between the term consumer and customer. Consumer is a person who buys a product or a service for his own purpose, for serving his or her own need. If a person is buying some product or a service, we can call them as consumer. But if one guy is buying some product or one person who is using a service, buying a service for the purpose of giving to another person, we can call such a person as a customer. So consumer will buy something, some goods or services for serving their own purpose. So now we were discussing about the unfair trade practices or the kind of exploitation that are being done by the businessman. It includes the usage of defective product, defective raw material, unsafe raw material, adulteration. People will mix the red brick powder along with the chili powder so that the weight can be managed, or they can uh, earn more profit by way of involving in such unfair things. Honey also, people used to business, some businessmen who are involved in honey business, they may even try that the particular way of liquid which is actually mixed with the sugar and all. Instead of pure honey, they even mix the sugar which is melted along with a little part of honey so that it may looks like honey. Okay, so other kind of unfair trade practices are actually misleading advertisement, some false advertisement. You studied about hoarding, black marketing. So these all are some kind of unfair trade practices, children. So because of these reasons, nowadays people needs to have more protection. Consumer needs to have more kind of protection nowadays. So nowadays, consumer is said to be a king. Is considered as a king in a free market economy. Previously, the approach was actually a buyer, when he is buying a particular product or service, it is their responsibility to be aware, about these kind of illegal things. When they are buying something, they should check the product or they should check the services properly rather than simply buying. So that approach was called let the buyer beware. A buyer should be beware before buying a particular product or a service. So that approach was called a caveat emptor. But now this approach has been changed. From caveat emptor, it has become the caveat venditor. It became caveat venditor, means let the seller should be beware. That means the buyer, the consumer is in a better position, children. Okay, that is because of the some kind of act that has been enacted by our government of India. Like in this chapter, we will study about Consumer Protection Act 2019. Okay, before we were studying Consumer Protection Act of 1986. Now we are studying Consumer Protection Act of 2019. So because of these kind of in act that has been enacted in India, now it is the seller should be in a position that he should be very much careful when he is providing, or when he's providing a product or service. The seller should be very much careful. Let the seller beware. The seller should be aware that there is a so-called act. There is a lot of protection now available for a consumer. If any fraudulent activity, if a seller is doing to a consumer, they can be taken to the court of law. So this is a latest kind of shift that has happened from caveat emptor to caveat venditor. Okay, children? Mahatma Gandhi also made a lot many quotes regarding the consumer or regarding the status of a customer. A customer is the most important visitor on our premises. He is not dependent on us. We are not dependent on him. He is not an interruption in our work. He is the purpose of it. The purpose of what? The purpose of a business is actually customer. That is what Mahatma Gandhi also mentioned. So, as I said already, children, before it was a Consumer Protection Act of 1986. Now we have changed. It is actually now we are actually studying the Changed Act, which is of 2019. So, Consumer Protection Act 1986 defines consumer as an individual or an organization who is buying goods or services against a consideration. Okay, they may pay some amount of money for that they are getting some goods or they are getting some services. So, Consumer Protection Act 2019 is the latest act. As per this, anyone, the following person will get some kind of protection. Basically, the consumer is actually a person who buy or hire services for some value. We already said that. Or it can be any user of a particular goods, or they may be using some particular services with the approval of a buyer. Okay, sorry, with the approval of the seller, children, not the buyer. With the approval of a seller, they may be using some particular product or a service. For example, father may be giving a mobile phone to the son. That is with the approval. In that situation, such person can get a kind of protection from the side of Consumer Protection Act. Now, without approval usage is also there. Suppose a person is using another person's Wi-Fi without the knowledge. In that situation, we cannot say that the other person who is actually stealing the Wi-Fi, we cannot call him as a consumer. So definitely he will not get a protection from the Consumer Protection Act. Okay. And also, as the last one, a person can be a consumer who uses a particular goods that are bought or that is bought for mainly his livelihood or for self-employment. That is also a person who is using goods which has been bought by paying a particular sum of money, or any person who is using a service for his livelihood or for self-employment. These people all are actually getting coverage under the Consumer Protection Act of 2019. Okay, so now we have actually, there are a lot many helplines are already available nowadays, children. Okay, this is a consumer national consumer helpline, NCH. This is actually our online portal where you can file the complaint, and in fingertips you can file the complaints. Okay, you can see here, even there is a toll-free number. If you have any problem when you are buying a product or a service as a consumer, if you are facing with any kind of issues, any adulteration, any fraudulent way of deed, if you are engaged in, if you feels that the product is of inferior quality, if you feels that the raw material of is of inferior quality, then you can complain here. Okay, so Consumer Protection Act, it is actually enacted in the year 2019 but came into force on July 20th, 2020. Okay, we used to call it as COPRA, Consumer Protection Act. So this is actually an important step taken by government for protecting the interest of the consumer. So this is actually replacing, it repeals and replaces Consumer Protection Act of 1986. So mainly, we can say some of the features of this act for a consumer side are, this is actually providing lot many right and responsibility to a consumer. It is providing some kind of safeguard measures to a consumer to fight against or to raise the voice against defective goods, defective or deficient services, or any kind of unfair trade practices. If they feel, they can raise their voice. Okay, so there are 3 level redressal agencies are there in this national uh, in this redressal mechanism, children. In this Consumer Protection Act, there is a 3-tier mechanism, or we can say it's like a court. You can see here, there is a district forum, there is a state commission, and there is a national commission for filing for the consumer. If they have any grievances regarding a product or a service, or a goods or a service, they can file complaint here. Okay, we will see these in detail, who all are included in the district forum, how many members are there, who all are the major agent, who all are the major key person. Like there is a president in district forum, and there are two other member. Like that, there is some kind of membership details we will study in state commission, in national commission. And if you have any grievances still, even after, if you are getting a jurisdiction, or if you are getting a kind of decree means a kind of a solution for a case, that is called a decree given by a judge. Okay, so if you are not happy with the decree, you can go to the next appellate authority. For example, if you are not happy with the decree what you got from district forum, you can file a appeal in state commission. If you are not happy with the decree given by state commission, you can go to national commission. If you are not happy with the national commission's decree, then you can go to the Supreme Court, which is the last appellate authority of consumer protection in India. Okay, now also we can say, because of the digital process, nowadays everything is digital, isn't it, children? From the COVID time and all, everything is becoming, or everything actually went into the track of the digital digital way. Hearing and all were happening in a digital manner through the online softwares. I mean, the video conferencing softwares, Zoom, Google Classroom, like that. Even these were also used not only in schools and all, but also they were using in the court for the hearing purposes. And this is also helping in e-commerce and all. Before 1986 and all, there was no e-commerce. This Amazon, Flipkart, or these kind of online shops were not there. So that is why Consumer Protection Act 2019 has been enacted, which is also covering the e-commerce and their different areas. If there is any, suppose you might have heard some people used to get some kind of fake product through Amazon or Flipkart or some any other kind of shopping site, then they can file a case in this consumer protection. As per the Consumer Protection Act of 2019, a consumer will get a protection. Okay, now this is also acting as a mediator, children. This is acting as a mediator between the buyer and the seller. Okay, if there is an issue between the buyer and the seller, first they will try to settle between themselves rather than the case being taken into a court. Okay, now also they are giving a lot of strict rules. Consumer Protection Act is actually protecting consumer against any fake product, fake service, unwanted unnecessary advertisement. So all these are actually a part of a Consumer Protection Act. This is covering the seller, this is helping the consumer, this is helping a dealer, even indirectly this is helping manufacturer. The place of seller is not at all a constraint. Okay, wherever be the seller, we can file a complaint against him. And there is also a Central Consumer Protection Authority. They are actually checking the Consumer Protection Act 2019. There is actually an appellate authority called Central Consumer Protection Authority. They are actually surveilling. They are actually surveilling the Consumer Protection Act 2019, whether the Consumer Protection Act is working properly, or whether the procedures, the provisions are correctly followed or not. Who will check? CCPA is checking. So anyway, as per the Consumer Protection Act of 2019, consumer is regarded as a king. Even this is even they are ready to take cases against celebrities also. Celebrities. Okay, so previously there was one case happened against the famous Malayalam actor Mammootty, where he was acting for a soap Indulekha, and one guy in 67-year-old, an auto driver in Wayanad district of Kerala, he filed a case against this actor. He stated that continuously he was buying, using this product, he was paying 35 rupee for one soap, and still he was not getting any glow or beauty like Mammootty. So this is the news, and I'm not reading that, children. This is actually showing the case. Okay, 75 gram bars, that soap he was paying, he paid 35 rupee, but still he couldn't get any kind of benefit. So in Dilega, the company settled him. Though he asked for 50,000, company paid him 30,000. So this is what the Consumer Protection Act is nowadays doing for a consumer. Okay. So who all are not a consumer? Any person who is actually using a product or his own purpose is a consumer. So who all are not a consumer? If any person is buying good for resale, not a consumer. Without approval of buyer, if anybody buying a goods, not a consumer. Okay. Without approval of a provider, any services is used. Not only goods, services also is used without approval of provider, not a consumer. If a person buying any goods or service without paying a money, not a consumer, children. So you have to be very, very careful uh, in understanding the meaning of a consumer. Okay. So with that, we can wind up this section. The coming section, we will study importance of a consumer protection. Okay, children. Thank you.